Hey everyone, my name is Ruth, and I'll be walking us through our fabric wrap jewelry process today. These are a couple examples of how your piece might turn out. You can see I've got some bracelets here, and I even did a necklace using this process. What we're going to focus on today is the fabric wrapped bracelets, but know that you can easily adapt or vary this process to make other things too, like a necklace or a ring, those sort of things. Now we're going to be using fabric strips, but I've also used ribbon, I've used lace, I even used that hand-dyed silk strip that we did. So you can bring in quite a variety of fabric to do this wrapping. Maybe you have a special piece of fabric that you've been holding on to for some reason and didn't know just quite what to use for. This would be a good project for that. So go ahead and pull that out. Now we're going to make some of these bracelets today. We're going to do that process from start to finish, but feel free to pause or rewatch the video as often as you need. Before we get started, let's talk a little bit about supplies. So as always, our very first supply is going to be that illustrated instruction. We're going to be doing number 5, fabric wrap jewelry. And just like every illustrated instruction, we'll have the list of supplies right up at the top, and then step by step how to do this process. Now, I'll be guiding us through the process today, but know that if you want to do it again, you can easily follow along with this. We're going to be using this as our guide. So go ahead and pull that out. The next thing we'll need is the cording. We're going to use this as the base of our project today. Now, we have a lot of cording in there, and we're only going to use a small part. We're going to use the rest of it for the basket coiling, but go ahead and pull that out today. The next thing you'll need will be the fabric. Now we have our fabric bundle. We use some of it already for the weaving. We can use another strip for our bracelet today, but also know that you can bring in that hand-dyed silk that we did, either the shibori dip dyeing or shibori immersion dyeing, whichever one you chose. You can bring that in and use that for your bracelet today. And I think that's what I'm going to use for my bracelet. All right, and the next thing we need is going to be that super glue. The super glue came in the kit, is really small. We're going to use that today. It doesn't have to be a super secure hold. We're just using it to kind of start the process for us. So we're using just a small portion of it. Now you can use the super glue, or you can use something like tacky glue or tape. It's not going to be seen for the Benny, so you can use kind of any adhesive for that. So go ahead and pull that out. And now there's one supply that we're going to need that's not included in the kit. And of course, that's a pair of scissors. Since we're working with fibers, we're going to be doing some trimming. So we need to make sure we have scissors. And fabric scissors are the best, but it is possible to use other scissors as well. So let's start our process. I'm going to get these out of the way. Our first step, a great first step, is always to have our supplies laid out in front of us, which we did. We went through our supplies. Now we're ready to start. So if we look at our illustrated instructions, that first step is to measure out the cording around our hand and then trim it. So let's go ahead and take our cording. And what we're going to do, I'm going to hold it with my thumb, and I'm just going to loosely wrap it around my fingers. I'm going to do it twice. And this measurement should be big enough that we can slide our hand through. We want it to be tight enough that it's not going to fall off our hand, but we want it to be loose enough that it'll fit over our hand, right? And so we want it wrapped twice, 2 rings of it. And then go ahead and trim that off. Once you get it trimmed, you'll have your smaller piece. We're going to take step 3. So this one is forming it into a circle, wrapping it around itself, and then gluing it down. So we'll take our cording strip. I am right hand dominant, so I'm going to use my right hand as the wrap. And I'm going to hold it in my left hand. So with my thumb, I'm going to hold it down to my hand, my left thumb, I'm going to hold it down to my left hand. And then with my right hand, I'm just going to wrap it around twice. And I'm going to wrap it until it meets itself. The 2 ends meet it. And so that'll be the length of my bracelet, right? And so what I'm going to do is take it and just kind of wrap that cording around itself. Like I said, we're using this as the base for our bracelet today. And so we just want to wrap it around to make it kind of a thicker base. And so you can see it's a little thicker. Okay. So what we'll do, this is where that adhesive comes in. So I'm going to open it up and add a little adhesive. To hold it down. Like I said, we don't need a super tight, secure hold. We just need something to hold it together long enough for us to get that fabric wrapped around. and make sure you don't glue your fingers to your cording like I just did. But anyway, you'll have it down. It doesn't have to be super secure. See, it's not a super secure hold, but it's glued together enough so I can start wrapping. Now, if you're doing a fabric strip, you go ahead and pull that out. One of the things that I do, you may notice that it's got frayed edges. And so one way to kind of fight those frayed edges is to fold it over on itself, right? And so what this does is it gives us a smooth edge and a frayed edge. And so as we're doing the wrapping, we're going to cover up that frayed edge with that smooth part. So if you're using that fabric, go ahead and fold it in half. You can iron it. Sometimes that helps to keep it down and together. But we're going to start by using that corner, the two open ends, not the folded end. The folded end is going to be out. And what I'm going to do, like I said, I'm right hand dominant. So I'm going to do all my wrapping with my right hand. With my left hand, I'm going to be holding it still. And so I'm going to take that the cording in my hand, and with my right hand, I'm going to put that fabric down. I'm going to hold that corner, the two open pieces, folded side out. I'm going to hold it down with my thumb, hold that corner, and I'm just going to start wrapping. And as I wrap, I'm going to try and do it as tightly as I can, because that's going to hold on to itself, right? And they're just wrapping it around, right? Building that up. And so as you see, as I'm wrapping, you see the folded edge is what's exposed. That frayed edge is being hidden by the folded edge. And we're just going to wrap it around, right? Keep wrapping. Now I'm going to stop here because I think I'm going to use my dyed silk. So I'm going to take the fabric out, but if you're using fabric, continue to do that wrapping. I'm going to be using my silk strip because I think it's really pretty and I want to use it, find a way to use it. So what I'm going to do is basically that same process. I'm right hand dominant, so I'm going to do the wrapping with my right hand. And with my left hand, I'm going to hold that cording, and my left thumb is going to hold the end down so I can start the wrapping. So I'm going to take it and just wrap it. I'm going around and through. Now with the silk strip, we have that frayed edge, and there's nothing we can really do about it because it's so small. But I think there's something nice about that frayed edge when it comes to the hand-dyed silk. But we're going to do that process. We're going to keep wrapping it around, wrapping it on itself, and we'll go all the way around. So whether you're doing the fabric strips that came in the bundle, or you're doing that fabric that we dyed together, you'll just keep doing that same process, wrapping it around, going all the way around. And when you get to that frayed edge, the ends of it, you'll just wrap over that, right? Because as we're wrapping, right, we're doing it as tight as we can. We're wrapping it around and through. That's what's going to hold that cording in place. So that super glue or tacky glue or whatever you use, that adhesive you use to hold it down, it doesn't matter, right? Because it's just holding it in place long enough for that fabric strip to get there and hold it down, right? And so we're doing that just by wrapping that silk around itself, right? And you can see as I'm doing that strip, that wrapping, I'm coming to the ends and I'm just wrapping it up, right? Nothing super fancy. It's just wrapping it around. I'm taking the ends and just wrapping it as tightly as I can. As I mentioned earlier, there's something that's really meditative about this repetitive process. Any kind of repetitive process, I think, can be really meditative experience. But this one specifically, because all you're doing is wrapping. It's not like you're changing up the process. You're bringing in different pieces. You're using one strip and one piece of cording. So it's not even a whole lot of material, right? And we're just kind of wrapping it around itself. And you can see as we're wrapping it, how tightly it's getting. Our cording is pretty loose and flimsy. And by wrapping this, by wrapping the cording or the fabric around the cording, you can see we're building the strength, right? So it's making it stronger, right? Making it more secure. And so you see, as I'm wrapping it around those frayed edges, that part I I glued down in the beginning, the two ends. You can see it's coming together. The frayed edges are kind of hidden underneath that fabric strip. And you can see I'm just kind of wrapping it up, right? Just wrapping around. Now, as we're doing this process, I do want to talk a little bit about our supplies. So as I said earlier, we're using macrame cording, right? You can get that from Amazon. You can get it from any kind of craft store. You can even find it at like Walmart or Target. Macrame cording is perfect for this, and that's what we're using today. But you can also use rope. So if you go to a place like a hardware store or a Home Depot or a Lowe's, you can use regular rope to do this as well. And of course, there are so many different sizes of ropes and cording. You can get thinner cording, you can get thicker cording, and it all works well. It's that same basic process, the same basic wrapping and twisting. And it's just going over and over again. Like I said, you can see how this is a very kind of soothing process. Once we get the hang of it and kind of get used to the flow of it, we can see how relaxing and soothing it might be, right? Now, I know that whenever we start a new process, sometimes it's hard to kind of get the hang of it, get the feel of it. But know that the more we do this, the more confident we'll be in the wrapping, in the twisting, the better at it we'll be. Our first one may not turn out perfectly, and that's okay, right? But the more we do it, like I said, the nicer it gets. And I think there's something really nice about using this hand-dyed silk. If you didn't use it for your weaving, or you used part of it for your weaving, you can definitely use it for this process. But again, I'm just kind of wrapping it around and through that cording, pulling it as tightly as I can. I'm using my dominant hand to do the wrapping and my non-dominant hand to hold the cording in place and to hold that fabric in place as I wrap it around. Now, when we do like a regular fabric strip, we do the folded edge on the outside, so it hides the frayed edges. But one of the things about the hand-dyed silk is that it's not big enough to fold really. And so you do get that little bit of a frayed edge, but there's something that's really nice about that, I think, having that frayed edge. It won't unravel on you as you're doing the wrapping, but it has kind of a nice look to it for sure. As I said, this is something that you can do. You can adapt, you can vary and do other things too, like that necklace that I was showing you. That's a one way to kind of adapt it and vary it, make it look really nice. Get creative with it. There's also ways you can embellish this, doing a fabric strip first and maybe going back through with a piece of lace, or maybe embroidering some sequins or beads on it. Either way, it's really nice to kind of do those embellishments and make it special. Now you can see I'm coming to the end. I've got my starting point here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to continue wrapping on top of that. I'm going to go over where I started just a little bit. And it's with that idea that as we're wrapping it, we're securing it in place. Whoop. As we're wrapping it, we're securing it in place, right? And so we want to make sure we're getting it as tight as we can, wrapping around that starting point. And this might be the tricky part, right? Kind of closing that end out. But you want to just take your time with it. We're in no rush, and just kind of wrap it. And you see how I'm kind of covering that up. I'm getting to that end point. And so I'm just going to overlap it, right? I'm coming to that end. I'm just going to overlap it a little bit and just kind of build on that for just a bit. Pulling it as tightly as I can, because that's how it's going to hang on to itself, how it's going to hold its place. All right. And so you see I've got my bracelet that I made, my hand-dyed silk. So I'm coming to the end, and you can see I've got some fabric left over. You may find that when you get to the end, your fabric, you have a hunk of fabric left, and that's okay. We'll just kind of trim it off. But this is where that super glue comes in handy, because we're going to super glue that end together. So go ahead once you get to the end and just trim it off. Kind of trimming it slowly. I'm going to take that super glue and I'm going to kind of put it on the end. And then I'm going to hold that fabric down. And again, it'll just take a moment to hold it. Make sure you're not gluing your finger to it. You may need a little more glue. Sometimes it helps to use another brush or something to hold it down. Just kind of hold that end. It may take a minute to hold it down. Again, please don't glue your finger to your bracelet. But just be careful with that gluing process and kind of glue it down. You can see it's starting to get there. Sometimes it may take a little bit to kind of get it glued down. We're just kind of holding it to itself and letting it dry just a moment. Like I said, this process can be adapted. You can do bracelets, you can do necklaces. I had a friend one time do several rings. It's nice to wear one of them. You can collect them like you would bangles. It can be a really fun, like I said, somewhat meditative process. And then once you have it glued down, you can try it on. And you have a lovely fabric wrapped bracelet. I hope this has been an enjoyable time for you. It's always enjoyable for me to go through these processes. As always, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us at our contact@mather.com. I wish you luck with your wrapping, and we'll see you soon. Have a good day, everyone.